Thanks for watching this video from Spectator TV. If you enjoy what we do here, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button at the bottom of this video and tap the bell icon so you never miss a video. First up, Trump's been indicted again. Before this year, no sitting or former president had ever been indicted, and this isn't even Donald Trump's first legal troubles. But will any of it really impact his chances of re-election? I'm joined by Andrew Neil. Andrew, welcome back to Spectator TV. It's great to have you.
Good to be back.
Andrew, I had a moment of deja vu earlier this week when I saw the headline, Trump indicted, come back up again. So for viewers who've lost track, like me, who've lost track of the amount of legal cases against Donald Trump, can you just update us on what this latest one is about?
Right, he says, quickly looking at his notes. Well, he is now indicted on 91 accounts. I'll say that again, 91 counts he's been indicted in 4 broad indictments. The original one, at least the first in chronological order, was to do with the hush money that he paid a porn star, or is alleged to have paid, well, he paid the money, they're calling it hush money. I must say now, that seems small beer compared to what has come since. And then we've had Special Prosecutor Smith bring 2 counts against him. One is Mr. Trump's handling of the classified documents, particularly at Mar-a-Lago, and the efforts he made really not to hand them back, which is doing him more damage than the act of taking them in the first place. Then, of course, there's the third, broader one about his behavior in the run-up to January the 6th and post what he regarded as the stolen election. And, of course, the riot that broke out in Capitol Hill that day and his role in that. And then, of course, this latest one. Now, these first 3, the Smith ones are federal. This one in Georgia this week is state. It's not federal, but this is to do with the specific efforts he took to try and get those responsible for the count in Georgia to do as he wanted. He lost Georgia by fewer than 12,000 votes. There's a famous tape call when he speaks to the Republican local official there, local politician, the Secretary of State, I believe he was at the time, for Georgia, saying you just need to find me 11,000 and several hundred votes and I'll be fine. So that is all that, plus fake electors leaning on people to change their mind, do different things. This one is interesting. I always thought the Georgia one might be the most important of all, because that tape alone is pretty hard to explain. He's clearly urging the local official to find 12,000 votes somewhere.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. You should want to have an accurate election, and you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have, not even close.
But also, because this is a state rap he's up against, if he loses, he cannot pardon himself if he becomes president again. Presidents can't do that. They can pardon themselves, at least we think they can, for a federal rap. They can't pardon themselves for a state rap. What he's been accused of, which is under the RICO laws, which are the racketeering laws, which go back to 1970, and this is a Georgia version of the federal racketeering laws, which basically killed the Italian mafia in the United States, basically destroyed the Italian mafia. They're using that against them as they've broadened it out as well. That carries a minimum of a 5-year sentence. So there's no plea bargaining there. There's no probation. It's a minimum 5-year sentence to do that. And even the governor of Georgia cannot pardon him. So even a friendly Republican couldn't pardon him. So in many ways, that's the more dangerous one. But you add them all up, the 91 indictments in 4 separate cases, which means that how much time he'll spend on the campaign trail and how much time he'll spend in the courtroom is a moot point. I mean, there just aren't enough hours in the day to do both.
Yes, so he'll be going to trial for these cases next year. But in the longer term, we might have a president of America, or former president, or president if he wins again, being in jail. Could that happen?
Yes, it could happen. I mean, he could run for president in jail. It's happened before.
Did he run the country from jail?
Well, yeah, it has happened before. There was an American socialist called Eugene Debs. He's what today we'd call a peacenik. He was against the draft, the conscription in World War I. President Wilson basically had him arrested during the war, towards the end of the war, and he was stuck in a federal penitentiary. Interestingly, he was tried under the then new Espionage Act, which covers more than espionage, and one of Special Prosecutor Smith's cases against him is under that against Mr. Trump is under that 1917 espionage too.
Wow.
So the same piece of legislation affected Eugene Debs. It put him in the slammer and is now being used against Mr. Trump. Now, that was in the run-up to the 1920 election, where Woodrow Wilson didn't run again. He'd had a stroke. His wife had been running the country. So the Republican candidate was Warren Harding. Eugene Debs ran from jail, from a federal penitentiary, and he got about 1 million votes, which was a little better than one of the previous elections when he had run. So you could do it. I think maybe a little harder today, because he didn't win either. Harding won by pretty much a landslide. But you could see some of it being run, I think, from jail. Though I don't think the trials are going to happen quick enough for that to happen. The Special Prosecutor Smith has said he wants one of his cases to begin on January the 2nd, which would be 2 weeks before the Iowa caucus, which is the kickoff of the Republican primary season. Good luck with that. The woman who's reading the case against Mr. Trump in Georgia, she says she wants it within 6 months for hers to begin. Well, she's taken 2.5 years to get here. The 98-page document she's produced doesn't really tell us anything we didn't know about the behavior of Mr. Trump and his acolytes already. And she has indicted 18 other co-conspirators, including Rudy Giuliani and that somewhat mad woman, Sidney Powell, the one that said the Kraken wakes. I mean, if anybody is ever a sandwich short of a picnic, it's her. And of course, Mr. Meadows, who was his chief of staff. There is no way all of that is going to be done in 6 months' time, ready to go to trial. So I suspect more likely some of them, I think we'll probably go through the Iowa caucus and then the New Hampshire primary, which is a couple of weeks later to the end of January. I think they will both happen without any of the trials happening, Cindy. I think there will be some pre-trial hearings. There'll be some motions before the court. Lawyers will see this is a dripping roast. They'll have their snouts in the trough to get as big a fees as they can from everybody involved. But I don't think any trial is going to begin. It may have begun by Super Tuesday, which is in March, but probably not before then.
But Andrew, what does all of this mean for Trump's campaign and its possibility of success? Because on the one hand, as you say, there's literally not enough hours, and I think they're spending a lot of campaign finance on the lawyers as well. Yeah. On the other hand, it seems like if you believe that this is a political witch hunt against Trump, you're simply going to believe it even more with every single method of lawfare, as some have called it, that comes up. So what do you think?
Well, you're right. A big chunk of the campaign finance that Mr. Trump has been raising is going on legal fees. And I suspect that percentage will rise as we get towards the trials. And the lawyers then you really start to rack up legal fees when you get into court or in the lead up to court. That's when the real money is. When these lawyers all bill by the hour. And I think we're in the wrong business. I think we should quickly get a legal education and start billing by the hour. So it's going to be hugely expensive. Now, what it's done so far is consolidated his base. I mean, he did joke a couple of weeks ago, I just need one more indictment. and I'll be unbeatable in the race of the Republican nomination. Well, he's got his indictment, and he does look unbeatable, I must say. He does look unbeatable for the Republican nomination. All these indictments seem just to reinforce the base that what he calls the deep state is out to get him, and he says, they're coming for me now, but if we don't win this, they're coming for you, he says to his base. And they lap it up. And it's been a disaster for the other candidates. The DeSantis campaign, governor of Florida, thought to be the only real challenger to Mr. Trump. His campaign is a mess now, going nowhere. He's fired some people. He's having to reboot it. It also, Cindy, puts them in the people who would challenge Trump, it puts them in a really difficult situation, because it means people like you and me ask them questions such as, well, was the election stolen? Is it right that Mr. Trump should face all these indictments? Did he do anything wrong? Does he deserve to be tried under the racketeering laws for a criminal conspiracy? And they're terrified of these questions because they're terrified of saying anything that will annoy the Trump base. So as things stand at the moment, he is the Republican candidate. That's just the way it is now. The unforeseen things can happen, which by definition we don't know. But at the moment, he is the Republican candidate. Now, the conventional wisdom is yes, all this gets him the Republican nomination again, but it is putting off suburban voters. It is particularly putting off middle-class suburban women, who he got in 2016 and lost in 2020. And none of this is doing him any favors come the general election. That's the conventional wisdom. I think there's a lot to it. I would simply put two markers on the ground just to keep an eye on Cindy. So far, and in a way I share that conventional wisdom too, the famous soccer moms, as they call them in America, are not going to like what Trump has been up to with the fake election, or January the 6th, or whatever. But there's no sign yet in the polls that this is playing to Mr. Biden's advantage. Because you would think, all right, it's getting the Republican nomination, but Biden's lead in a notional poll, Trump versus Biden, of which there is a lot of polling being done on that now, surely Biden will be moving further and further ahead. There is no sign of that in the polls, Cindy. All the signs are is that they're nip and tuck. They're around 44%. They're both within the margin of error. It is too close to call in these polls at the moment. So that's something to keep an eye on, and kind of, in a way, makes you question the conventional wisdom. Second thing I would look for is, I'm still not in any doubt he will lose a lot of middle-class suburban votes. He is doing nothing. He's consolidating his base, but he's doing nothing to win back the people that voted for him in 2016, but he lost in 2020. That's not happening. However, there are signs that an increasing number of working-class Hispanic voters are moving his way, are moving the Republican way, and therefore moving his way too. And although there aren't as many of them around as there are white suburban middle-class women, some of what he's not getting back could be made up for. And remember, if you take by these Hispanic voters who are becoming more and more Republican over the years, you know, the House recently elected its first ever Mexican-born congressman, actually a woman, and a Republican from a district that borders Texas with Mexico. So that is going on as we speak. And that could make a difference, that could help counteract the fact that he's not getting that moderate white suburban vote back again.